Well, as the U.S. and Israel continue to hammer Iran, there are growing concerns about the possibility of Iranian sleeper cells launching attacks here at home. Our Peter Doocy asked President Trump about that last night.
Have you been briefed about how many Iran sleeper cells there could be inside the U.S. right now?
I have been, and a lot of people came in through Biden with this stupid open border. But we know where most of them are. We've got our eye on all of them, I think. They came in through the open border policies of Sleepy Joe Biden, one of the worst president in the history of our country. And we've got our eyes on all of them.
Now, this comes as the White House pushes back on an ABC report that said that the FBI warned California of an alleged Iranian plan to attack the state with drones. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt last hour writing, quote, "This post and story should be immediately retracted by ABC News for providing false information to intentionally alarm the American people." She goes on to say, to be clear, no such threat from Iran to our homeland exists, and it never did. And I do want to point out, California, pretty quickly after, Governor Gavin Newsom came out with a tweet. He said this, Harris: "I am in constant coordination with security and intelligence officials." And he goes on to say, including those tied to the conflict in the Middle East, "While we are not aware of any imminent threat at this time, we remain prepared."
Look, that's actually the right thing to say, because we have to remain prepared. Yeah. I think we're in kind of the zone of everybody wanting to report it first, get it out, do whatever. I can't speak to where they got that particular information or why they thought they needed to say it in that way. But I can say this: there is just an overall thought. We are not being protected the way we should be right now because the Democrats are not funding the TSA and much of DHS. The Border Patrol and ICE funded from the big, beautiful law. The rest of it, they are holding us all hostage in airports and other places where we're in large crowds, just laid bare because people are not on the job to do their jobs. They're not getting paid. They're getting gig work. Third shutdown from Chuck Schumer, and this one hurts. So I want to focus on where we are vulnerable, and California has some things. It's got reachability, it's got Vandenberg Air Force Base. We already know. Remember the Chinese spy balloon that went across? What were they spying on? That particular location, our Air Force. So we know our enemies would love to hit that particular part of that state, if not all of it. And I think that we all just have to wake up to this fact. I am a little reticent because I'm seeing a lot of it in social media now. There's a lot of flex going on. There's a lot of the got to get it out there. And you know what we have to get out there? We need to get DHS funded. Let's get that out there. Yeah,
Kennedy, and there have been 2 attacks already. We saw Austin with the Iranian flag on the perpetrator. You see what happened at Gracie Mansion with the bomb-throwing devices. I mean, there have been 2 in 14 days. And while we don't know exact motive, it's pretty clear that Iranian flag, there are things that need to be stopped, and DHS being funded could be of assistance.
Yes, and these are people who have been radicalized, and for whatever reason, individuals who felt called to action, and those people are terrifying. What's really scary is the thought of sleeper cells. Yep. And, you know, I know the president was asked that directly by our own Peter Doocy and took it head on and said, you know, we have eyes on these people, and was talking about the threat based on the border that was very, very porous for so long. And we knew a lot of the people who were coming into the country were not from Latin American countries. So, you know, they were from places like Kazakhstan and Iran and Libya and Syria. And, you know, that's what keeps me up at night. Like, that's living here in New York City. That's the kind of thing that really scares me. And it almost felt like it was a coordinated effort between ABC and Gavin Newsom to make him seem presidential. But it's very interesting.
It is odd.
Yeah, I know. I agree completely. And there are 500,000 Iranian Americans who relocated after the overthrow in 1979. And, you know, they live in constant fear. And now that has been compounded, so Gavin Newsom can seem like he knows what he's talking about. Interestingly, he didn't talk about coordinating with the Pentagon or the White House at all. I guess to score political points and to make people feel even less safe.
Yep. And, you know, Guy, when we look at this, the 2 individuals here in New York motivated by ISIS, we do know that. Authorities have told us that. And you think about the lawless southern border, and I think President Trump is right to bring that up. And you think of MS-13 that's poured across our border, 400 terror watch list threats obtained on the border, 2 million gotaways, the millions led into our country. We don't know who those people are.
That's the key point. because the stats and Bill Malugin would rehearse them for us over and over again on the news channel and elsewhere. It's like, okay, well, this number of illegal immigrants from these countries of concerns were interdicted and stopped at the border. But then you have the millions of gotaways. So these are people that we know entered the country illegally, but we have no idea who they are because we didn't have the resources or manpower to stop them. Who are those people? Are any of them potential lone wolf attackers or sleeper cells? God forbid. That is something that is of significant concern. I cannot believe, Harris, I keep coming back to your point. I cannot believe that we are in the middle of this military conflict with the #1 state exporter of terrorism in the world, and we have a government shutdown specifically for our Homeland Security Agency right now.
I know.
That is derelict, that is reckless, that is unbelievably shocking. And the fact that there are not reporters on a daily basis chasing around every single Senate Democrat participating in this filibuster to keep it shut down, microphones in their faces, is this this political stunt to attack ICE theater?
It's already funded.
Is it worth it? Yep. Is it worth putting Americans in danger? And make them answer that question. We've seen very little of that type of hounding.
Why are they still getting paychecks?
And I mean, Emily, it's CISA, that's cybersecurity. It's TSA, that's airports. It's Coast Guard. And there are Coast Guard deployed overseas now.
I mean, the horrors cannot be overstated. Look, Joe Kent, who recall is director of the U.S. Counterterrorism Center, he testified last year in 2025 that there were 18,000 known or suspected terrorists that got through during Biden's administration of the southern border, 2,000 of which were associated with that horrific and botched Afghanistan withdrawal. So the reality is that indeed, and even aside from that, we are under a constant threat of a homeland attack in many different ways, because we know this is why those Iranian proxies and the Islamic radical groups have set up camps, literal camps, to train people how to do it. So now you say, okay, well, there's 18,000 of them in this country. Great. We know that there are credible reports of 1 or potentially 2 surface-to-air missiles that are in their hands in this country. So I think it's incorrect to say everything's fine and nothing to see here. We've talked about the prepared citizenry being the best antidote to the efficacy of these radicals, but the reality is that they are always wanting to see death and destruction. And under the call to arms and the radicalization, one lunatic with a weapon, even if it's a knife, as we see in Europe, a vehicle in a crowded shopping. I mean, that is massively dangerous, and that is on the thing. So we have to be prepared, and local EMS services need to be prepared, and the FBI needs to be prepared, and DHS needs to be funded.
Yep.
Yeah,
all hands on deck at a time like this.
Can we defund the Democrats that can't get to 60 votes this afternoon for the test vote?
I wish we could.
Yeah, I mean, cut their paychecks. Let them feel this.
Yeah, instead of TSA. Our hardworking TSA who are sleeping
asking
in
for
cars
donations. Wait, did you guys see that? They're asking for donations at airports for them.
Our enemies are laughing at us.
Yeah, TSA workers sleeping in cars last shutdown is what Trisha McLaughlin told me. Crazy.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.